back. The 2020 Arnold Classic. Night one has just wrapped up. Siddique Farooqi alongside the legend himself, MILOS SARCEV. The night capped off by Alex Cambronero, MILOS winning the 2020 Classic Physique crown. A very tightly contested victory over Terrence Ruffin.
Yes, just like at Olympia, we had three guys, and actually anybody could win. And in my opinion, George should have taken it. If you remember in the wrap-up that I said, this time it was very close between Alex and Terrence. I was favoring Steve coming into the show because Steve really, for me, has everything, the best, the shape, aesthetics, size, conditioning normally, but this time he didn't come as conditioned, and that cost him. Now between Terrence and Alex, there was really, again, picking certain things. I think the judging should be just like a bodybuilding. So you would look at aesthetics and shape first, and from that aspect, I think Alex beat Terrence. Yes, he was wider, so there was wider shoulders, greater V-taper, great conditioning. They were both, in good condition, but Alex edged him a little bit on conditioning as well. As far as balance, which is very important, I think Terrence would win that one because he had stronger legs. This is the only thing that I think Alex needs to improve in order to move up in Olympia placing, because I think he placed 6th last year. So this is a huge thing for him. I'm all for aesthetics and bodybuilding. Bringing classic physique is the most wonderful thing. If I would be a judge today also, I would give it to Alex, with Terrence being second and Steve third. With that, I have to say Steve, for me, is the biggest potential. I would hope he's not going to get discouraged. I think last year when he lost to George in the Arnold Classic, he was maybe criticized that he needed a little bit more size. Right. So he came a little bit bigger, but I think that cost him.
Well, we just spoke to Neil Hill, and obviously the plan now is to get Steve Laureus qualified for the Olympia. But let's go back to the top two, and just to repeat, Alex Cambronero finishing in first place, Terrence Ruffin in second, Steve Laureus third, Abner Logan, the former NFL player for the Buffalo Bills, in fourth, Ricky Moten fifth, and Santi Aragon in sixth place. But let's talk more about Alex Cambronero. Interestingly enough, about a year ago, he switched over from the 212 division to Classic Physique. Now, MILOS, you and I have spoken about this before, about the door that Classic Physique has opened to a whole new breed of bodybuilders who see Classic Physique as a good fit for them. In your opinion, switching over from 212, what was it about Alex Cambronero, in your opinion, that makes him such a good fit for the top tier of Classic Physique?
When I talk about Classic Physique judging last year with Chris Aceto, right, he did mention that Classic Physique should be judged differently, or maybe it is judged differently. They're looking for this aesthetic and shape much more than in open bodybuilding. So in open bodybuilding, Alex being a little bit taller and weaker in a lower department, he didn't have as much chance. Now in a Classic Physique, just like Arnold himself, he was most classic bodybuilder right of all time. He didn't have really legs that flare that much, and in many experts' opinion, Arnold's legs were weaker in comparison to upper body. So this is what I was even thinking about Alex competing today. I would say in bodybuilding standards, his legs were down. He not developed enough, not flaring enough. And Terrence had full, separated, big medialis, big lateralis. So in that aspect, he would beat him. But I support IBB and this movement in the Classic Physique. They emphasize the shape. So all the guys that have aesthetics and shape and competing in 212 or open, now they have a new platform to step on stage and demonstrate their aesthetics and shape with most of us purists love about bodybuilding.
Let's get a thought about Terrence Ruffin, because when this division was first created, so many of the bodybuilding purists looked at Terrence Ruffin and said, that is Classic Physique, not only just from the physique perspective, but the presentation, the posing that he brings to the stage.
My God, I talk about this. Judging should be aesthetics. No, conditioning first. So therefore, because Steve didn't have a conditioning, he didn't win, and I support that. Conditioning should be number one, then aesthetics and balance, but then presentation. As far as presentation, Terrence's routine today was magnificent, okay? He transitioned about into 40 different poses, one better than the other. I would just prefer that he would hold the pose a little bit longer, because I understand back in the day when I competed, and a lot of photographers would come up to me and say, "Milos, we love to photograph you because you hold your poses." And I've seen that one thing about Terrence, who is absolutely spectacular poser, did many transitions and many poses, but didn't hold too much. So, some people like photographers and media and audience, they would like to, capture this, analyze it, and appreciate it. So I would just say that this was one aspect I would, suggest for him to, hold the pose a little bit longer. But I could never repeat those transitions, that movement in a variety, angles. It's spectacular.
The smoothness that he brings, transition to transition. Let's get a thought on Steve Laureus, because last year, 1 year ago this time, he narrowly finished second to George Peterson. And then we had a debate about the difference between the different varying forms of physiques in Classic Physique, with George having obviously moved over to 212. But many thought Steve Laureus had the classic look for Classic Physique. What went wrong in your opinion today?
Today, yes, I agree with you. Last year, it was very close between George and Steve. Steve being a little bit taller, very classic look, but still didn't have that muscle mass that George presented. For that reason, I said this before, I think that George should have won Olympia last year, no question about that. From an aspect of being complete, having everything, strong arms and back that Chris could not match. So this should be also considered, but Steve Laureus, I think, has a Mr. Olympia Classic written all over him. I really appreciate his physique the best. Structure is there, wide shoulders, great backs, teeny tiny waist. That vacuum that, you can just kill for legs, unbelievable. So from aspect of legs, Alex Cambronero could not, match, not even close, Steve. But conditioning went into his favor, and aesthetics. Alex Cambronero has a tremendous upper body from every angle. Alex had stronger arms than Terrence. So in Classic Physique, we don't have certain poses like we have in bodybuilding. We don't have a lat spread from front and back. We don't have a triceps. I don't know why they wouldn't want more comparison, more possibility to see aesthetics, shape, and muscles. But Steve should, and I tell you, Steve, if you're watching this, as I told you on the way,
and we know you are.
Yeah, you are watching on the way to the athletes meeting, and I told you have a best physique, out there, and I really mean it. I'm a big fan of him, and I was really, heartbroken when I saw that he just missed his peak, and therefore he was penalized rightfully.
Your biggest takeaway from tonight, obviously, when we talk about the upper class of Classic Physique, we're going to mention Chris Bumstead, we're going to mention Breon Ansley, obviously George Peterson, 3 years in a row in the top three, moved on to 212. But then you look at the Arnold Classic, what we had tonight, you have Alex Cambronero coming from the 212. Terrence Ruffin, the poster boy for Classic Physique, brought all the bells and whistles that we expected him to, phenomenal posing routine. Your big takeaway as far as what we saw tonight from the top two in terms of maybe the improvements or what you would like to see for them to have the best shot at an upper tier finish at this upcoming Olympia?
Yeah, you see, this is a very tough question to answer, because I would put George Peterson over Chris Bumstead last year at Olympia. George having a more mass, more balance, more muscle, right? So would I suggest to Terrence, put more muscle? That would be contradicting, but I think the only thing that he needs to do is, bring a little bit more width, therefore, a little bit more width in the shoulders, to create a more dramatic V-taper, because he's shorter, and he's going to go against, tall Steve and Chris is tall, a few other guys. So illusion of that V-taper, X-frame, which Alex, had over him today.
Well, there you hear it from MILOS SARCEV. So again, Alex Cambronero winning the Classic Physique division. Natalia Soltero winning figure. Natalia Coelho winning women's physique. And Missy Truscott winning the Fitness International. That's going to do it for night number one here at the Arnold Classic. Big night tomorrow night. one of the deepest and most exciting open class lineups maybe ever at the Arnold Classic tomorrow night. Keep it locked to RXMuscle.com.